Breaking news, Lions Nation. Things are heating up in Detroit, and I've got something very important to share with you. We all know the front office has been putting in the work to build a team that can truly compete with anyone in the league and chase that long-awaited Super Bowl. Week after week, decisions are being made behind the scenes, and every single one at the same time. There are still adjustments and challenges that need to be addressed within T. But before we get into all the details, make sure you smash that like button. Only do it if you believe this season could be the one that changes everything for Detroit. I'll tell you this, I believe it with all my heart. The passion of his fan base, the unity inside the locker room, and the fight this team brings to the field are something different. If you feel the same way, let me see it in the comments. One pride. We're going to the Super Bowl. Now it's time to get into it. There's a sense of anticipation hanging over this week. The kind of tension that makes every fan lean in a little closer, because what happens on Sunday could say a lot about where the Detroit Lions are headed. We've been handed a mix of good and bad news, but truthfully the balance tilts toward optimism, and that alone should make every supporter eager to see how this all unfolds. The injury report is always one of the most telling storylines leading into a game. And this week, it gives us a clearer picture of who will take the field when the Lions square off against the Chicago Bears in what promises to be a massive divisional clash. Let's start with the names that matter most for the Lions. Jack Campbell is back in full practice after missing time earlier in the week with an ankle issue, and that alone is a big boost to the defense. Taylor Decker hasn't been practicing because of that off-season shoulder cleanup, but here's the twist. John Morton made it clear that Decker will be playing on Sunday. That's huge, because if Decker was sidelined, the Lions would be forced to rely on Giovanni Manu after already losing Jamarco Jones to IR, and with Dan Skipper battling his own injuries. That kind of shuffle on the offensive line could have spelled disaster. Instead, Decker's availability stabilizes the line, protecting Jared Goff and giving the run game a fighting chance. Terry Arnold, who tweaked his groin in week 1, has returned to full practice. That's an encouraging sign for the secondary, especially considering how sharp he looked before going down early in the opener. Daniel Thomas, another depth piece at safety, is practicing fully as well. Sony Vaki and Trevor Noah, both limited, appear to be trending in the right direction. The overall takeaway here is that the Lions are heading into this game healthier than expected, with Decker and Arnold being the critical factors that could shape how the game plays out. Now, shifting to the Bears, and this is where things get interesting. Their top cornerback, Jalen Johnson, who missed week 1 against the Vikings, is now a full go. Wide receiver DJ Moore, dealing with a groin issue, should also be ready. TJ Edwards, their best linebacker, is expected back too after practicing in a limited capacity. That changes a lot. If you watch Chicago's defense without Edwards, you know how vulnerable they looked, with Penua Nwasu struggling badly in coverage. Adding Edwards back into the lineup immediately tightens up their unit. Roshan Johnson and Kyler Gordon are both limited, and Grady Jarrett sat out, which hurts their defensive front. But the headliners Johnson and Edwards will be there, and that means the Lions offense won't get any shortcuts. And maybe that's exactly what Detroit needs. If this team is going to prove it belongs in a conversation with the NFC's best, it has to win games against full-strength opponents. Beating backups doesn't mean much in January. The fact that the Bears are regaining key starters should raise the stakes, not diminish them. It gives Detroit the chance to show its offense can produce against a defense that isn't hobbling, and its defense can hold up against a unit that has all its top weapons on the field. But here's where the narrative takes a twist. Offensive coordinator John Morton called the current offensive struggles an easy fix. He emphasized that the issues come down to young players needing better looks and more repetitions, pointing out that extra practice periods were added this week to reinforce execution. Morton doesn't see panic in the building, but fans have every right to raise their eyebrows. If the offensive line was dominated last week, is that really something you clean up with a few extra reps? Losing Frank Ragnow clearly disrupted communication, and even with a healthier group, the idea of simplifying or dumbing down the offense doesn't exactly scream confidence. Morton insists the fix is simple, but to many, including myself, it feels like a problem that requires more time and more toughness in the trenches. On the other side of the ball, defensive coordinator Kelvin Shepard struck a very different tone, and it's one that might resonate more with fans. Shepard spoke about Terry Arnold's injury and mistakes, but instead of excuses, he demanded accountability. He reminded players that being a professional means owning up, stepping off the field when hurt, and never letting excuses replace performance. Shepard didn't just talk the talk. He admitted to his own mistakes as a play caller, including dropping Aiden Hutchinson into coverage when it backfired. That kind of ownership sends a clear message. Accountability isn't optional. You do your job or you don't belong. The contrast between Morton and Shepard is striking. Morton downplays issues, framing them as easy corrections, while Shepard leans into the hard truths, accepting blame and demanding the same from his players. That balance between reassurance and tough love could very well shape the Lions' identity moving forward. Shepard even highlighted how his unit contained Jordan Love's running ability against the Packers. If the Lions can repeat that formula against Caleb Williams on Sunday, limiting his legs while keeping him in the pocket, the defense could tilt the game in Detroit's favor. So here we are, staring at a Sunday matchup that feels bigger than just week 2. It's a chance to measure Detroit against a divisional rival at near full strength, with the roster healthier than it looked days ago, and coordinators revealing very different philosophies about where this team stands. Is Morton right, and the offense really just a tweak or two away from exploding? Or is Shepard's no-nonsense, accountability-first approach the mindset this team truly needs to climb toward championship contention? That's the question hanging in the air, and it's one I want to throw back to you. Do you believe Morton's easy fix is enough to solve the offensive struggles? Or do you side with Shepard's tougher, more demanding philosophy? Which approach do you think will push the Lions to the next level? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because this game could tell us more about who we really are than any stat sheet ever could. If you step back and look at the bigger picture, this matchup against the Bears isn't just another early season test. It feels like a statement opportunity. The Lions have been building towards something bigger, a reputation as a team that no longer just fights hard, but actually wins games they're supposed to win. And yet, the offense's recent struggles have left a cloud of doubt. Can this team dominate when it counts, or are there cracks that could widen as the season goes on? That's what makes Sunday so fascinating, because the conditions line up perfectly for answers. Think about it. Taylor Decker suiting up changes everything in the trenches. With him in the lineup, you stabilize protection for Jared Goff, giving him the time and comfort to work through progressions. Without him, the line gets stretched thin and becomes a liability. And this is no ordinary game to have protection issues. The Bears may not have been at their best in week 1, but with Edwards and Johnson back, their defense instantly looks sharper. If the Lions' offense is going to break through, it'll require the line to be disciplined, to communicate clearly, and to avoid the mental breakdowns that haunted them against the Packers. And then there's Terry Arnold. Before his groin injury, he looked like the kind of defensive back you want anchoring your secondary. Aggressive, smart, confident, but once the injury hit, it was like flipping a switch. His play declined dramatically, and eventually he had to come off the field. Rocky Ya-Sin filled in, but the drop-off was obvious. Now Arnold is back to full practice, but the lingering question is whether he'll actually be at 100% on game day. If he is, the Lions secondary looks much stronger and can hold up against DJ Moore and the Bears passing attack. If he isn't, Caleb Williams might find a seam to exploit, and that could flip the balance of the game. All of this underscores just how thin the margin is in the NFL. A single injury, a single mismatch, a single coordinator's philosophy can alter the outcome of a game, and by extension, a season. That's why the contrast between Morton and Shepard looms so large right now. Morton projects calm, talking about simple fixes, almost brushing off the deeper concerns. Shepard, on the other hand, demands urgency and responsibility, recognizing that excuses won't carry a team into January. Both voices matter, but the players will ultimately decide which one resonates.
Look at Shepard's defense against Green Bay. While the sacks didn't pile up, his unit adjusted as the game went on, improving drive by drive. That's growth. That's accountability turning into results. If they can replicate that same adaptability against Caleb Williams, contain him, frustrate him, force him to win with his arm alone, the Lions will have a huge edge. Williams' mobility is his biggest weapon, and shutting that down is how you take away Chicago's spark. But can the offense rise to match that? Morton's group hasn't shown the same growth curve yet. Too many communication breakdowns. Too many moments where protection collapsed and the rhythm disappeared. That's why so many fans bristle at the idea of an easy fix. Because if it were that easy, why hasn't it already been fixed? That's the tension building into this game, whether Morton's reassurance is backed up on the field, or whether Shepard's uncompromising style sets the tone for the whole team. And here's where things get even more interesting. This isn't just about beating the Bears. It's about proving to the league, and to themselves, that the Lions aren't the same old Lions. This is about sending a message that no matter who's healthy for the opponent, Detroit has the roster, the toughness, and the leadership to impose its will. Every Super Bowl caliber team has to pass these kinds of early gut checks, where talent, resilience, and mindset collide. So on Sunday, when Taylor Decker takes the field, when Jack Campbell returns, when Terry Arnold tests his recovery, and when DJ Moore and TJ Edwards line up on the other side, we'll get a much clearer sense of where this Lions team really stands. Are they a group that crumbles under pressure, or are they one that thrives when the spotlight is brightest? Are they a team that needs opponents shorthanded to win, or one that beats you even at full strength? That's why this game feels like more than week 2. It's about identity. It's about trajectory. And it's about proving that Detroit belongs in every conversation about the NFC's elite. Now I want to hear from you. Do you think the Lions offense will finally click and prove Morton right? Or do you think Shepard's demanding, no excuses mindset is the model the entire team should follow? And most importantly, do you see this game as the moment the Lions show they're more than hype, that they're truly built to contend? Share your thoughts below, because this conversation is just getting started, and Sunday will give us the answers we've been waiting for. The more you peel back the layers of this matchup, the clearer it becomes that it isn't just about X's and O's. It's about culture, leadership, and execution under pressure. For years, Lions fans have watched teams that had flashes of talent but couldn't string it together when it mattered most. Now, with a roster that has real playmakers and a coaching staff that is still writing its identity, we're standing at the edge of a turning point. Consider how fragile momentum can be in this league. A week ago, people were already raising alarms about the offensive line. Without Frank Ragnow and with Decker not practicing, there were legitimate fears about whether this unit could protect Jared Goff or open holes for the run game. Fast forward to today, and the tone feels different. Decker is suiting up. Jack Campbell is back. Terry Arnold is returning. Suddenly, the conversation shifts from fear to cautious optimism. That's the roller coaster fans live on every week, and that's why every detail in this injury report matters so much. And yet, optimism doesn't erase the need for results. This team can't afford to lean on excuses. They can't simply say we were missing a starter or communication was tough in a loud stadium. Those explanations might be valid, but they don't win football games. That's where Shepard's words hit harder than Morton's. When Shepard says, "Do your job, no excuses," he's articulating the mindset of a contender. It's the same mentality fans want to see on the field, players who take accountability, fight through adversity, and refuse to fold. What makes Shepard's comments even more compelling is that he didn't just call out his players, he called out himself. He admitted when his calls didn't work, when his decisions weren't good enough. That kind of ownership isn't just talk, it sets a standard. It says nobody, from the top down, is above accountability. When you build that culture, it spreads. Players see it, respect it, and start holding themselves to the same level. That's how teams grow. That's how good teams become great. On the other hand, Morton's easy fix remarks feel softer, almost dismissive of deeper concerns. Maybe that's just his personality, trying to calm the noise, reassure the players, and prevent panic. There's a place for that too. But when the offensive line gets bulldozed, when communication breaks down, and when the offense sputters, fans don't want to hear that it's an easy fix. They want to see it fixed. They want evidence on the field, not words in a press conference. And here's the truth. The Lions have the weapons to turn this around. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jahmyr Gibbs, Sam Laporta, these are playmakers who can change games if given the opportunity. The problem hasn't been talent, it's been consistency. Getting Decker back should give Goff that extra heartbeat of protection he needs. Gibbs can be unleashed if the blocking holds up, and if Arnold is truly ready, the secondary instantly looks less vulnerable. The pieces are there. The question is whether Morton's unit can finally put them together in sync. Meanwhile, across the field, the Bears aren't limping into this game like they were in week 1. With Edwards and Johnson back, their defense won't be as soft in coverage. DJ Moore's presence stretches the field for Caleb Williams. This isn't a watered-down opponent, it's a full-strength test. And that's exactly why it matters so much. Beating the Bears at their best would erase the doubts about Detroit's toughness. Struggling against them, on the other hand, would fuel every critic who says the Lions aren't ready for prime time. That's why this game feels like a measuring stick, not just for the players, but for the coordinators too. Will Morton's offense look sharper, faster, more disciplined? Or will we see more of the same mistakes that haunted them a week ago? Will Shepard's defense contain Caleb Williams the way it contained Jordan Love, forcing him to beat them from the pocket instead of with his legs? These answers will tell us whether the Lions are on track to contend, or whether the same old cracks are still lurking beneath the surface. And let's be real, Fans don't just want to win. They want a statement. They want to see the Lions dominate the trenches, shut down the Bears' best players, and show the kind of swagger that makes other teams nervous. They want to feel like this team is building towards something bigger than just surviving week to week. That's what's on the line Sunday. A chance to turn optimism into proof. A chance to show that accountability matters more than excuses. A chance to prove that this offense isn't just promising, it's powerful. Now the question is, which version of the Lions will show up? The one that gets pushed around and blames communication issues, or the one that owns every mistake, fixes it, and refuses to back down? That's the story that will unfold on Sunday, and it's one every fan should be watching closely. So I'll leave it to you. Do you think this is the week the Lions put it all together and make that statement win? Or do you believe there's still a long way to go before this team proves it's ready for the spotlight? Let me know in the comments, because after Sunday, we might finally know if the Detroit Lions are who we believe they can be. And here's where it really gets interesting, because this isn't just about week 2 or about one divisional opponent. What unfolds against the Bears could end up being the foundation for how the rest of the season is perceived. Every year, there are games that quietly define a team's identity, games that reveal whether all the hype is real or just smoke. For Detroit, this feels like one of those moments. Think about what's been building. This roster isn't short on talent, and it's not short on ambition either. Brad Holmes and the front office have invested heavily in finding the right mix of veterans and young players who can form a new core for the future. Fans know the pieces are there. They've seen flashes of greatness, but they've also seen how quickly things can unravel when communication breaks down or when injuries pile up. This Bears game, with so many key Lions returning and Chicago bringing back its defensive leaders, creates the perfect litmus test. Can Detroit execute, stay disciplined, and dominate when there are no excuses left on the table? For Jared Goff, this is another chance to prove his leadership. He's been steady, but steady won't be enough against the Chicago defense bolstered by the return of Jalen Johnson and TJ Edwards. He'll need to be precise, decisive, and fearless. And with Taylor Decker back protecting his blind side, he should have just enough time to make those throws that change the complexion of a drive. The Bears will bring pressure, no doubt about it. But if Goff stays clean in the pocket, the Lions' offense can finally look like the unit fans expected coming into the season. And what about the ground game? Jahmyr Gibbs hasn't been unleashed to his full potential yet. With a healthier line and a clearer offensive plan, this could be the week he breaks free. Gibbs has the speed to torch defenses, but only if the lanes are there. Morton has talked about the run game needing only minor adjustments, calling it an easy fix. Well, this is the week we find out if those words hold water. If Gibbs is bottled up again, those reassurances are going to start sounding hollow. But if he can hit open space and force the Bears to respect the run, suddenly the whole offense opens up. On defense, Shepard's group carries both confidence and responsibility. They showed growth against Green Bay, tightening up as the game went on, and that's a credit to his leadership. But now comes Caleb Williams, a rookie quarterback with the kind of mobility that can wreck a game plan if he isn't contained. Shepard was clear, containment matters more than sack totals. Make Williams win with his arm, not his legs. Force him into uncomfortable situations where he has to read coverages rather than escape pressure. That's where players like Aiden Hutchinson have to show discipline, keeping lanes sealed and refusing to overpursue. And don't underestimate the ripple effect of Terry Arnold's return. If he's close to full strength, it changes how the secondary matches up with DJ Moore. Before his injury, Arnold played with confidence, anticipating routes and sticking close. If he brings that same energy Sunday, the Lions can keep Moore from becoming Williams' safety blanket. But if Arnold is limited or re-aggravates that groin, the Bears will spot it and exploit it without hesitation. That's how thin the line is between shutting down a star receiver and giving up chunk plays that swing momentum. Beyond the tactical matchups, what's most compelling is the cultural storyline. Morton versus Shepard. Optimism versus accountability. Reassurance versus urgency. Two very different tones shaping one locker room. Fans are smart. They see the difference. They know Morton is trying to calm things down, but they also know Shepard's fire feels more authentic. At the end of the day, though, it's the results that matter. If Morton's offense looks sharper, his calm approach will be validated. If it sputters again, Shepard's message of accountability will ring even louder as the example the whole team should follow. And here's the kicker. The Lions don't just need a win, they need a performance that changes the narrative. Surviving a sloppy game isn't enough anymore. This team has been talked about as a rising force in the NFC, and rising forces don't scrape by, they impose their will. Fans want to see dominance, clarity, and a sense that this isn't just a team with potential, but a team realizing that potential right now. That's why Sunday feels so heavy. It's not just about beating the Bears, it's about proving that Detroit is building something lasting. that they're learning from mistakes, that they're holding each other accountable, that they can win when it matters against a team that's bringing its best players to the field. So the stage is set. The Lions are healthier, the Bears are stronger, and the coordinators have laid their cards on the table. Now it's about execution, identity, and heart. What do you think, Lions fans? Is this the week Detroit makes its first real statement of the season? Or will the same issues that haunted them last week show up again when the pressure is on? Drop your thoughts below, because come Sunday, we'll finally see who the Detroit Lions really are.